Okay, so here we have my SubZero Rogue build. This build was mainly based off of lucky hit chance to freeze your opponents. This is a little similar to the CC build I put out a video on. I actually came up with this build after I made that first CC build. I didn't have the stuff to do it and figured it was super unique heavy, so I just wanted to go for something else that was hard CC, and that's where that other build came from. But I personally like this better because there is not any setup you need. You have everything just going for you. Percentage chance, which is very high to freeze. No cooldowns or anything have anything to do with it. You don't even need cold imbuement. So it's very nice. The helmet, you have Cowl of the Nameless. This is to get another 25% increased lucky hit chance. Mind you, it's only against crowd controlled enemies, but they will always be crowd controlled. You have Penitent Greaves here, which are going to chill anything around you that counts as a CC, then it applies. Sounds when you use cold imbuement. You can have Frostburn's proc, which is another big part of this. It's 25% chance to freeze, and it's too easy. You can daze with Twisting Blades as well to get CC. And knockdown. So this will always happen. Frostbitten, this is purely to synergize with this heart. So cluster munitions, you have a 20% chance to launch 6 stun grenades that deal blank damage. Damage doesn't matter. What's important is that you're launching the grenades. And also they stun for 0.5 seconds, which isn't really a lot, but another form of CC. But it's a lucky hit, which again will be buffed up by Cowl and the lucky hit that you put on your gloves and everything else. But when they're hit, when chilled enemies, which will always be chilled because of Penitent Greaves, are hit by your grenades, or a chance equal to double your critically strike to be instantly frozen for 2 seconds. And you deal up to 25% increased damage against frozen enemies. For the pants, you have the cheats aspect, 25% less damage from crowd controlled enemies. See the theme here is crowd controlled enemies. So straight 25% chance, or 25% reduction most of the time. Very nice. This is just for Twisting Blades, of course. Aspect of Disobedience on the amulet to give more tankiness. This honestly is kind of personal preference. Maybe Barrier could work for you, and then you could have Lucky Hit on Barrier. Actually mistakenly have down here, because I think this build initially used Temerity, but I changed it to Cheats aspect and forgot to change the gear stats. Regardless, you have the energizing aspect, just like my previous build, because you can have up to you get 7 energy every time you hit an elite enemy, which players count as elite enemies, so it's very good for keeping up your resource. Edge Masters, because you're using Inner Sight. Aspect of Corruption will help Hold Imbue be 40% more effective, which is very nice. And then Ashira's Cannon Jar, if you don't have this, then just use the aspect of repeating that increases your attack speed as you hit people with core skills. Then for your gear stats, so helmet cooldown reduction, cold imbuement, crowd control duration, and maximum life. Cooldown reduction is important to get your cold view as much as possible. Ranks of cold imbuement, obviously, because using a lot. Crowd control duration, because tons of crowd control. Maximum life just always helps in PvP. Chest piece is pure damage reduction. Gloves is crit chance, lucky hit, Twisting Blades attack speed. Pants is damage reduction, dodge chance, and maximum life. I like dodge chance. It's pretty much just a chance to take no damage, and pretty good. Boots, movement speed, shadow step, so it deals more damage when you go and stun someone. That can be something else if you really want. Energy cost reduction, like, doesn't really matter. Dodge chance, dexterity, amulet cooldown reduction, and then just damage reduction for these two, and the frigid finesse passive. That's because you'll be obviously using that with this build. And show it here. So you deal 30% more damage to frozen enemies. Then with the next 3 ranks, it gets up to 60. It's a huge damage boost. Say 3 ranks, because that's what you can get from an amulet. I also have +3 to all imbuement skills on my amulet, but not preferred. I honestly rather have what's written here. The rings are crit chance, lucky hit chance, crit damage, maximum life. Again, maximum life so we can be more tanky PvP. Ranged weapon, which should be a crossbow, crit strike damage, shield enemies, frozen enemies, vulnerable damage. And then the 2 daggers, this is only if you don't have Ashira's, then you do these 2 together. So core skill, critical strike, vulnerable damage, damage to frozen, and then core skill, crit strike damage, damage to frozen, and damage to chilled on the other one. And again, the other one will be aspect of the repeating if you don't have Ashira's. Skill tree, you're using puncture, of course. Improving Twisting Blades, you want to get that daze. The cooldown thing doesn't really matter. 12% damage reduction when you're close, which you always be. Very nice. Weapon mastery is always amazing as always. You can also want to get down on your amulet if you can. Methodical Shadow Step, 2-second stun to initiate, or it gives you unstoppable, so you can get out of CC with it and then stun. You want the knockdown, just another form of CC, which is very nice on Twisting Blades and very easy to proc. I use the vulnerable even though I'm using the barber because sometimes you don't want to puncture, but you could always do this as well. But I personally like the 6 seconds of guaranteed vulnerable. We're using concealment pretty much just for the unstoppable because you can't really stealth with Pendant and Greaves. Exploit Malice, just tons of damage. Precision Imbuement because we want to be doing a bunch of damage cold imbue, which is why it's maxed out with blended. So they have an even higher chance. Well, now they have the 20% chance to stun them on top of the chilled building up to stun them. I'll put Shadow Clone in a second. You want more lucky hit chance with non-physical damage, so you have like a 75% chance to stun pretty much when you hit with cold imbue. It is ridiculous. It might even be more than that. Every energy you spend gives you even more lucky hit, so this is 30 right here as well. Then a lucky hit to get energy, which you'll have like high lucky hit chance. We're using momentum because it's the only passive that really matters. I love Shadow Clone to last here because I wasn't actually sure if I was going to Shadow Clone. I've been enjoying it so far, but initially I was going to use Smoke Grenade with this one, Submerging Smoke and Wave. But then if you're also finding that you don't get enough damage reduction rolls on your gear, you could use Dark Shroud. I guess countering Dark Shroud. Paragon. It was only unique to the first 2 boards where you're going to be wanting to use Control and Closer. Other than that, I left this empty because you can just go to Max Rolls, Twisting Blades Guide, and just use their Paragon board for the rest. There are some other glyphs that look enticing for this build, but are not better use. And of course, the showcase is linked to this build as well.